You know that feeling when you create something you're genuinely proud of? Then you start working on your next masterpiece. And the next day, look at it again and it just doesn't hit the same anymore. Naturally, you try and go back and fix it, end up changing the whole thing entirely. And this is one of my struggles in game development. Trying to stay in my lane, chipping away at my to-do list, and try my absolute best not to add any more work to everything I'm juggling. And I know how it feels redoing some of your old work. It's painful, and it hurts so much having assets you won't end up using. But sometimes you have to leave your pride behind and let the dark side consume you. Take this concept art. I made it 2 years ago, and at the time I thought it was incredible. It fit the tone and the color scheme of the game. Also, the boss design looked doable. But when it came to actually creating the sprites, and after spending weeks on just basic animations, I realized that they looked the same. Every boss was just floating. Here's where it gets interesting. I noticed that I've done the same thing with older bosses as well. This guy was supposed to look like this one. And this one was also another floating boss and ended up looking like this. And I think the new direction looks way better to fight against. And even though it does look better after weeks of working on it, I keep going back to the same loop and I start to doubt my decision making all over again. In one way I stop myself is just that I lock myself out mentally. And when I finish working on something, there is no going back until the polishing phase. The top priority is to make it exist first, then make it good later. Speaking of pushing boundaries, I mentioned in my last video that I really wanted to make a horror game. Well, I couldn't resist. And I went back to my drawing board, looking at the concept art for this area in Duck Norris Tales. And that's where I decided to transform this boss into this nightmare. And the concept is very simple. For this section of the story, Duck Norris is confronted by fear itself, thinking like Nightmare on Elm Street. We take him back to his childhood home, tapping into his worst fear, the ceiling monster. This is his only chance to confront his fear once and for all. I also took this as a personal challenge to break out of my comfort zone. I'd never animated a spider before, and as we all know, animation is already tough enough, but animating multiple legs? It's absolute hell. It took me way longer than I thought. We're talking multiple days with pure frustration. I had to create multiple practice animation just to understand how legs even work together. And I keep looking back and I'm like, why the hell did I choose a spider? But then on day 3 it clicked, and I suddenly have something that kinda looks like a spider and not like a horrific disease. And here's the final result. It's minimal, but works nicely with the rest of the game. Now with the spider animation complete, I realized I had another challenge. Up to this point in development, I've been relying purely on art and basic light effects to carry the experience. And looking at the spider in the normal light, it just wasn't scary enough. I needed to create some atmosphere. And for those who don't know, I'm using GameMaker, and it doesn't have lighting out of the box. There are some cheeky ways to add light, but I wanted the proper bloom effect. And that can only be done using shaders. And I mentioned it in one of my earlier videos that I'm using a system from Grizzlus Maximus. His tutorial isn't complete, but it has a pretty solid foundation and you can tweak it to your needs. And with that all being said, let's take a look at this. I added a flashlight, flickering bulb, and the whole scene looks completely different. With that all in place, I wanted to create something special for this nightmare scene. The idea is to make the combat feel strategically frantic. Not the kind where you just button mash and pray, but you have to manage multiple threats and think 3 steps ahead. For the main attack pattern, I went with the classics. A charge attack. It's a staple for a reason, and most monsters always want to get close to their victims and ignore any personal space. There's something primal about it. It really is uncomfortable and it's always effective. So if you like slashers like I do, this is a must-have. And this attack also helps close the distance. Next we have the volley attack. The spider shoots 3 ink blots that slam into the ground. I wanted to dial up the game juice a little bit, and now we have this really satisfying explosion effect. So far we have 2 attacks, and once you start to get comfortable with the pattern, the boss pulls away and starts to escape. You get this very small window of breathing room, then the boss repositions to a completely different angle and unleashes 3 rapid fire attacks. And right after that, it dives bombs straight down and close the distance once more. For phase 2, I wanted to amp up the chaos factor. Remember the ink blots? They are portals to the mothership, and they brought some uninvited guests. Meet Scully, the skull that has been twisted into a spider form, because one spider wasn't enough. I also added this attack. because I don't want to take the spotlight away from the boss. This only adds another layer of challenge without overwhelming the player. And this is how it all looks like. And I'm not gonna lie, it feels incredible, and I'm genuinely glad I got to redo some of that art, even though there is still that nagging voice in my head saying I wasted time on the original concept. But then I started looking at it through a different lens. This concept art inspired the new and improved art, so it wasn't a complete waste. It was more like a stepping stone that elevated the work to a completely new level. And I found this approach really useful. Taking a long break, at least 1 month, to reset your brain, and when you take a look at your older work, you can see it with fresh eyes. And since I discovered that, I started doing quarterly reviews of my work and slowly patching up issues. Sometimes there are some animations that need adjustment or sound effects that feel out of place. What about you? Do you have the same issues with loving then hating your work? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far and you're interested in optimizing things and becoming better, I've created a new Discord server for like-minded people who wants to take this journey to the next level, and you can find it in the links below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like and a comment. It will really help me with the algorithm and help the channel grow. If you enjoyed this video, you'll enjoy this video as well. Thank you so much, and remember, just take it one day at a time, and I'll see you in the next video.